What's going on, everyone, and welcome to another Reedsy Live. I'm pleased to be able to bring on an author and marketer, Bryan Cohen. He's a bit of an expert when it comes to writing book descriptions, or blurbs, as some people call them, with an eye to helping convert readers who come onto your page, whatever retail you might be using, when they pick up the back of your book. Yeah, I'll let him explain a bit more when he comes on.
Thank you. Thank you, Martin. Thank you, everybody. I'm very excited to be doing this today. I love book descriptions and I'm ready to go. So welcome to How to Write Better Book Descriptions to Sell More Books. We're just going to get right into it. What is a book description? If you're new to this, if you have heard of other terms like blurb, but you don't really know what it is, let me just tell you. When it comes down to it, the book description is the text that shows up on your online sales pages. So on Amazon, on Apple, on Kobo, etc. It also shows up on the back cover of your paperback book or hardcover book or audio book. But, unless you're selling at a conference, nobody's even looking at the back of that book. They're all looking at what the words are on your sales page. It's around 150 to 300 words. Usually it's a little longer for a nonfiction book. Now, a book description, when it comes down to it, is your opportunity to get readers excited about your book. The book description is the best way to turn browsers of Amazon, people who make it to your page, into buyers. You want to turn the people who randomly find your page into people who buy your book. Now, a lot of you might wonder, how do I condense my book? Because it's 80,000 words. How am I supposed to get 150 words from that? That seems impossible. And judging by how many folks of you write fiction, I think you might understand where I'm coming from. So here is the book description formula. I will go into a couple more points for nonfiction later, but it does seem like most of you are fiction writers. Here's the book description formula. It starts with a hook. It's the line that you'd put on your movie poster. It is the line that gets people in your genre to know that your book is for them. It's the line that gets people who write in your genre to know the book is for them. I'm going to go into some very specific things here about what a good hook entails, but it always starts with a hook. If you have quotes from people, if you have even something from the New York Times, I would still put the hook first. Then we go into the synopsis. This, for fiction, is kind of your character's emotional journey. It is where your character is at the start, where your character is once things happen to him or her, and it's always focused on the emotions of your character. A lot of you get really excited about your plot, so you want to share as much of it as possible in your book description, but readers like to connect with characters more than they like to connect with plots. Now, from a synopsis of a nonfiction, it's about how you convey the information, anecdotes, case studies, tips and tricks. That's what the synopsis entails. Selling paragraph. This is my favorite thing. I do love the selling paragraph. This is where you tell your readers what your book is, so to remind them what your book is and why they should go and buy it. What is it about your book that is so awesome? This is when you're kind of putting on your publisher hat and you say that your book is great. And I know that's hard for you. Because usually there's a lot of folks out there who are pretty humble, who don't like to share that kind of thing, but you have to come from the reader perspective here, which is the reader thinks that a publisher has written that. They think that a publisher has written it. So you have to remember that. Then we end with a call to action, which is essentially asking readers to buy your book. You do it in kind of a professional way. Buy this book to experience something amazing today. So this is the formula. Now I'm going to go to every last part of it. But before then, the challenge that we have, our book is full of a lot of stuff. Plots, characters, settings, tips. And we have this very limited window here, right? 150 to 300 words. We have this limited window to get people who stumble on our page to be excited enough to click the buy button. And so we have to use this space very wisely. But how on earth do you condense this 80,000 word book? How do you do it? Well, condense isn't quite the right word. It's honestly about making a choice. Let's start right off the bat with your hook. So how do we choose what goes in our blurb and what doesn't? Now, novels, they tend to have one main conflict. One main conflict. The biggest one, the one that deals with usually death, love, or enlightenment. Someone might die, someone might fall in love, or someone might have enlightenment, have a big aha moment. While nonfiction books usually have one main takeaway. Now, if you list out all of your book's conflicts or takeaways, you list them all out, you need to choose the one that's just the biggest, that's the most exciting, that's going to get, if you write fantasy, that's going to get your fantasy readers excited. If you write self-help, that's going to get your self-help readers excited. So you take that conflict or that takeaway, and that's what you base your description on. It's not about trying to condense every last plot point. It's about figuring out what is the big thing that my readers would be excited about here. And it's about basing your description on that. So you don't have to worry about including plots or sub-characters and all of that. All you need to focus on is what is the number one conflict or the number one takeaway in my book. So, example. Let's say we were writing a book description for Harry Potter, first one, and we wanted to come up with a hook. There's a lot of characters. Hermione, Ron, all of the professors, all of the bad guys, Snape, but you could settle on what is the number one conflict, which is usually in the format of the protagonist wants something, but something is standing in their way. Harry just learned magic, but the most powerful wizard of all time is out to kill him. Pretty big conflict. Then we take that conflict and we just try to restate it a bunch of different ways. This is not the kind of thing where you come up with one idea and then that one idea is perfect. You need to come up with a lot of different options, but you create your headline based on your conflict, which for this is when evil awakens, one boy's magic must save the world. So I kind of just twisted the conflict a little bit to make it a little bit bigger. We need to save the world here. We need to do something big and bold and incredible. And so that is something you need to keep in mind with your conflict. Let's go to a nonfiction example. Marie Kondo's The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up. Lots of tips, lots of examples, but the main takeaway is you get to discover how to declutter your house using one simple rule, which is, hey, does it bring me joy or does it not bring me joy? And then you create your hook based off that. Tired of dealing with clutter every day of your life? Discover a simple system that'll cut your tidying time in half. So for nonfiction, it's always kind of that, what problem are you solving? Followed by sharing. So Ivy said, what's a takeaway? A takeaway is the number one thing someone will learn from the book. So in this case, the number one takeaway is the simple system that is going to save time. In short, you need to start with good material, aka your number one conflict, your number one takeaway. And then you're going to end up with much better copywriting for your description. Start with good material and you're going to end up with much better copywriting for descriptions, ads, and more. So who am I again? Well, I just wanted to give you guys a little note here. I've written actually thousands of book descriptions over time. I've learned a lot about the industry through my weekly podcast, the Sell More Books show. I'm interested how many people here have listened to the Sell More Books show. There I am with my co-host, Jim Kukral. There I am on stage. I recently presented at 20 Books Vegas, the big self-publishing conference. And yep, as Lisa points out, there's my little cutie, my daughter, who is almost 3. And I have been following every single week the self-publishing industry for the last 5 years. I have been talking about the news. I have been learning about marketing. I have been attempting to make sure I give you the most relevant, interesting information. Now, my own success, I have also sold some of my own books. To kind of to point to Lisa's point, do you find self-publishing more beneficial? These are my sales from my own self-published books over the last 8+ years. So far, so good. I do know I have had a lot of success with my own self-published books. So hopefully that proves that I'm worth my salt here. Here's what you're going to learn today. You'll learn why a book description is really the ticket for better sales and more readers. You'll learn how to effectively write the 4 parts of your description. And you're going to learn how to write that short copy, those hooks, those Amazon ads, and those things that get you interested in all of your future books. So what is copy? What is copywriting? So these are the words on the outside of your book. Chances are a lot of you are just so good. You're significantly better than me at the words inside your book. But the words outside of your book are the ones that help to sell the ones on the inside. This is the marketing. The words readers use to judge your work. Look, you judge a book by your cover, you judge a book by your blurb, by your book description. And readers are going to judge your work before they decide if they're going to buy. And so we want to make sure that judgment is very positive. This is also the part of book marketing we have the most control over. Even if you do publish with a small press, I've had a lot of authors with small presses work with me and my company because they do actually have control over writing the book description, and the company is okay with them writing their own book description. Sometimes the author will do a better job with the description than the company itself. Now, where do people look on an Amazon sales page? It's a good question. And Michael Alvear on a study in Romance University did a little heat map test here, looking to see what people are actually looking at on an Amazon sales page. Helpful information to have. Surprisingly, they don't look at the cover that much once they're on the page. They've likely seen it in an ad or they've seen it in a search, so they don't actually need to look at it much over here. But look at what they're really looking at. They're looking at the title. They're looking at the reviews. And if they're still on the page, then what do they do next? They look at that book description. The interesting thing is, if they make it through your book description and they like your book, they're probably going to buy it. But if they don't like your book description, they're not going to buy it. So I like to refer to copy as your closer. It's your closer because the cover is going to draw readers to your page from an ad or from social media. The title and the reviews, they kind of keep them there. Like, hey, the title can't be super confusing. You can't have one review. I like to say, are you going to buy the socks with 50 reviews or the socks with one review? I'm going to buy the socks with 50 reviews. So you want to have more reviews, obviously. You want to have more reviews. And if they're still on the page after they've looked at the title and the reviews, that book description can really seal the deal. There was this great study done by Mark Dawson years ago. He surveyed 10,000 readers and asked them, how'd you find me? He assumed everyone was going to say his cover, but 4 times as many people, nearly 5 times, said the book description. And it's not even necessarily that the book description was the thing that got them, but it was the last thing. It was the last point of contact before they purchased. So if they like your description, they'll buy the book. So we better get it right. So the description starts with a hook. This is the line that's going to either compel your target readers, the people who like reading your genre, to either keep reading or to buy right there. Some people stop reading after the first line and decide whether or not to buy. It's that first impression, right? It's the first impression of your book description starts with your hook. That's why you really need to grab them with that line. It's the first impression with your words. It needs to really get them. It needs to hook them. If they like that, even just that first line, they might buy your book. They might join your list. They could become a fan forever. So I want to share with you the simple 4-step process for writing these stellar hooks. Step 1, we already went over, is to pick that conflict or takeaway. So write them all out. If you're not sure which one is the number one death, love, or enlightenment, high stakes conflict, write them all out. Then you pick the number one option that you think readers of your genre would most identify with. So if it's fantasy, it might have to do with your fantastical words. If you're a fantastical world, if it's your thriller, it might have to do with the murder that's happening. Pick the one that is going to resonate with your readers. Here are a couple of options. The Fault in Our Stars, the conflict. 2 teens are in love, but they're dying of cancer. That's terrible. That book and movie make me cry. Nonfiction, discover a 5-step process for writing New Year's resolutions that stick. That's for the book Your Best Year Ever. So, conflict, what is the big thing usually related to death, love, or enlightenment for fiction? For nonfiction, what is the number one thing readers are going to get out of this book? And that's it right there. Now we're going to use that conflict. We're going to adapt that conflict to write your hook. You're going to ignore the book. You're going to ignore trying to squeeze a million plots in here, and you're just going to focus on that conflict or takeaway. A Fault in Our Stars. We're just going to rewrite it. Young love, a terminal diagnosis. Time is running out. So this is just a restatement of two kids are in love and they're dying of cancer. Your best year ever. Usually, it's a question followed by your book framed as the solution. Are your New Year's resolutions always out of reach? Discover I love discover. I like unlock, explore. Discover a 5-step process for setting and achieving your loftiest goals. So it's the problem followed by solution. Step 3, you're going to rewrite this hook. I like to do it 15 to 20 different ways. For the sake of time, we're just going to do one additional version. So, Fault in Our Stars. Dying of cancer is tragic, but it's worse when you're in love. Your best year ever. Will this be the year you achieve your resolutions? Discover a 5-step process to make New Year's a time for goal-setting celebration. This is creative work, but we tend to use our editor brains on this. I recommend treating this like a writing sprint where you're just trying to get as many ideas out of your head at once. And I found that to be pretty helpful. Make these versions as wildly different from your first one as possible. Then you pick the emotional one. You pick the one that is most likely to get you excited to read this book, that makes you excited as the author even. So let's say we have our two options for our fiction here. We compare them and then we say, hey, we take a look. Maybe we even share it with our readers. Always a good idea. Share it with our readers and see which ones they vote for. In this case, I was a fan of option 2. I think it fits the tone of the book a little more. Ends with a stronger word because it ends with the word love. Powerful words: love, death, pain, soul. Run those in there. Make them the last word. To share it with your readers, it's very helpful. If you do have an email list, you do have a Facebook group, those are great places to share it with your readers once you start to collect them. Let's look at the nonfiction ones. I ended up picking option 1 the first time I wrote this, but I actually like, will this be the year you achieve your resolutions? I don't know which one I would pick now, but I think you can pick whichever one you want, but I would recommend that you share it with readers whenever possible. But when you pick between not just 2, but 15 to 20, and you can kind of mix and match them, it gives you a much better chance of finding one that's going to connect with your readers. I almost do all of my testing with readers themselves when I'm doing one of my own books. But internally, we actually create 5 to 10 different options, and then we pick which one ends up being the best, that we're the most excited about, and we use that as the hook. Here are some examples. Someone asked for thrillers. Thriller: a death row escapee. Nuclear launch codes in the wrong hands. A retired detective is the world's only hope. Sci-fi: humanity has escaped Earth. Their second home is in the line of fire. One renegade pilot will save or doom us all. It doesn't always have to be 3 sentences, but I was in a mood when I picked these. Fantasy: fairies and humans have always stayed separate until now. A reckless sprite's first day on the job could be her last. And so we've got the death in almost all of these cases. Thriller, sci-fi, and fantasy are similar in that the world is usually in danger. Romance and memoir and young adult tend to be a little bit different. Romance is usually about the will they or won't they. He just wants to forget. She wouldn't take help if it landed on her. Together, they'll find out exactly what they were missing. Young adult. Popularity just turned its back on him. She's never fit in. School never saw them coming. So I recommend you use the hook everywhere. I recommend you use the hook everywhere, Erica. So memoir is an interesting one. It tends to be a combination of fiction and nonfiction. We tend to refer to it as a reverse mullet with business in the back and party in the front. So we have the fiction party up top and the business in the back. Now remember, you can use these hooks in your description on Amazon as advertising copy and as a Facebook ad copy as well. Now with the hook, you've got their attention. Now there were a couple people who asked, what if it's cross-genre? Usually if it's fantasy, sci-fi, or something else mixed with another genre, you usually go with the weird one. You emphasize, if it's fantasy romance, you emphasize the fantasy. If it's sci-fi thriller, you emphasize the sci-fi. So the headline gets the hook in. Now it's time to reel them in with your emotionally charged synopsis. I'm going to go deep on fiction with a couple little nonfiction pieces of info here. Good questions here. I promise I'm going to answer all of them at the end. So your typical fiction synopsis. Here's what you usually see in descriptions that are not strong. These synopses don't know why their characters matter. They don't flow because it's really, really choppy. It doesn't grow. It doesn't, you don't feel the energy building as we continue on. And it doesn't show that the book is awesome. It doesn't leave the reader wanting more. It doesn't have some big cliffhanger that is getting readers excited. So we obviously want it to show that the characters matter. We want it to flow. We want it to boost in energy as it goes on. And we want it to show that this book is so awesome that you have to pick it up right away. Now, the best-selling books of all time have these big characters. Heck, even the Bible, right? You got these big characters of Adam and Eve and Noah. The best-selling books of all time have big characters. We relate to them. We connect with them. My mom used to work at a day camp, and kids would come up to her asking for not Hunger Games hair, not capital hair, but they were asking for Katniss hair. Readers connect with characters no matter what age they're at. So it's not just, enough to have someone's name and all this stuff happen to them. No, we need to see and understand how these characters feel. So how do you make readers know that characters matter in your book? You need to kind of answer, what defines your protagonist? What is something about that character that would make him or her relate to a reader? What defines your protagonist? What is it that sets them apart? What is it that makes them interesting? What is your main character going through? Where are they at? Where are they at the beginning of the story? Where are they at emotionally at the beginning of the story? This isn't from an actual book description, but I like this Harry Potter example. Harry Potter just found out his whole world is a lie. I'm not saying here that Harry Potter is upset, but I'm showing it because he just found out his whole world is a lie. He just found out something big. This doesn't just sound like something happening to him. It sounds like something emotional happening to him. You want to vary up your sentence length. They can't all be the exact same length. They can't, or it's going to sound like spoken word poetry or something. You need to vary your sentence length and type. Some short sentences, some long sentences, and it certainly can't be one long run-on. Man, have I seen a lot of descriptions that are just one long run-on sentence after another. Can't do that. If I'm a reader and I see that your description is full of run-on sentences, I'm going to assume you're right like Faulkner, minus maybe the skill, and that your sentences are just super, super long. So here's an example of flow. Instead of this mouthful, as a spy for the top British intelligence agency, comma, MI6, comma, David Trotter has the highest security clearance, comma, but he can't tell his family anything, comma, which has never been a problem, ellipsis, until now. I find it helpful to read those punctuation marks out loud because it makes you realize just how many there are. I wouldn't recommend more than one comma per sentence in a book description. Instead of that, do this. David Trotter is at the top level of British intelligence. He may love his family, but he can't tell them anything about his top security clearance and his license to kill. It hasn't been a problem until now. Just feel how much more dramatic it is with those stops. It needs to not just be like stream of consciousness. It needs to be well written. Be willing to cut details out, to remove plot points in an effort to get more flow into your description. You want to make sure that it grows. Look, you need to keep the momentum going. You need to make sure that the energy is going from the beginning to the end of your description. Because the synopsis is like a shark. If it stops moving, it is going to stop getting oxygen. So I love using phrases like, when the whole world changed, comma, after meeting his maker, comma, dancing his way to the top of the charts, comma, as the tension between them builds, comma. These phrases are kind of like a plane needing to speed up before it takes off. You're adding energy to the sentence so that it has enough speed to fly into the air. So these kind of transitional phrases can make a huge difference. And lastly, it needs to show. You need to raise those stakes. Death, love, or enlightenment also plays a major role in the cliffhanger. I read too many descriptions that end with a whimper. It almost feels like the writer or the publisher just said, okay, I guess I'm done. Well, that's exactly what the reader's going to say. Okay, I guess I'm done, and not buy the book. So you need to end with something really big. Example, if they fail, the ones he loves may not survive the night. Death. Right there. So the fiction synopsis. Know the character's emotions. Let it flow with short and long sentences. Read it out loud. Read all the punctuation marks out loud. You grow momentum with transitions. The runway before the takeoff. And then you just show how crazy this book might get. Cliffhangers are absolutely allowed here. Now with nonfiction synopses, I'm just going to list a couple of points. Very important that you establish that you're an expert. And if you aren't an expert, you should at least say that you're an author, because the first few letters of authority are author. So you want to have that you are an authority on this subject. Here's an example of expertise. Fitness and military intelligence expert Gary Collins has helped thousands of people roam free with firsthand advice shared on his popular website. Also, you don't want to list everything You want to focus on the transformational benefits. So inside, you'll learn how to balance your checkbook so you can finally save up for your dream vacation. It's not just about, hey, you learn how to get out of debt. It's about, what is getting out of debt going to provide for me? And maybe it's going to provide that you finally get to do the things you've been dreaming of. You need those. You need those transformational benefits in your nonfiction description. What comes after the synopsis? Two last things. And this is kind of like your closing argument that is going to make or break the sale. You need to remind your reader what the book is and the action they should take to start reading it. What do they need to do? And so we accomplish this with the selling paragraph and the call to action. So if a reader has gotten to this point in the description and they haven't bought, there's still some sort of resistance on their part. They don't yet feel compelled to buy it. So we need to answer these questions for the reader. What if this book isn't for me? And it sounds good, but how do I know for sure? We want to make sure the reader has these questions answered for them. And we do this by using two simple sentences. Two last sentences before we get to the call to action. Sentence 1, we tell it like it is. We mention the genre and the series. Example, Ted Saves the World is the first book in a young adult superhero series. It seems kind of trite, but that's what we got to do. We got to remind people, what is this book again? People have kind of a limited attention span these days. Now, if the reader likes the genre, they're more excited. You've scored a point. Oh, I love superhero books. So bringing the genre back in is important. Sentence number 2, why should I buy? You want to use praiseworthy, pertinent adjectives to describe your book. Remember, it's not time to be modest. You need to think of yourself like a publisher, not a bashful author writing his or her own bio. I use the if you like this, you'll love this format. This has actually been proven to increase sales in a study on bookbub.com. Here's an example. If you like wall-to-wall action, witty dialogue, and touching romance, if you like this, then you'll love the first installment in Bryan Cohen's Super Powered series. It's weird to write your own name there, like it's third person, but it's absolutely necessary. So finding those adjectives, this is a great way to use your customer reviews. If you don't feel comfortable speaking highly of yourself, you can look at your customer reviews. You can look at your customer reviews to speak highly for you. You can paraphrase them. You can copy paste them. You can quote them, whatever you want to do, but you can use those pieces of reviews to speak highly for you if you would rather not use your own words. Couple of examples. Dead of Winter is the first standalone book in a spine-tingling series of romantic suspense novels. Okay, so that's a series too. But if you like small-town mysteries, heart-wrenching romance, and gripping tension, then you'll love Melissa Pearl and Anna Cruz's White Knuckle Thrill Ride. The Law of Action is your practical handbook for mapping out your path to a purposeful life. If you like real-life examples of success, no-nonsense advice, and simple steps you can start today, then you'll love Rob Actus's life-changing guide. Ken Every book in a series should have its own description. You don't necessarily need a whole series description, though I've seen that being used in box sets. So now we make our final plea, selling paragraphs in place. We're going to pitch our readers. We're going to tell them what to do. The description ends with a call to action. What is the call to action? This is where you give your reader guidance. You hold their hand, literally hold, well, I guess it's figuratively holding their hand all the way to the shopping cart. You want to tell them what they have to do. For example, buy the Pugs of War to start the hilarious caper today. I like to use buy, but you can use other words like explore or discover. I like to do this at the end because you've got a reader, a potential reader, has 7 internet tabs open. They have the TV on, their tablet is on. They're pretty distracted. So you kind of need to just get through to them by telling them exactly what to do. Then we have buy Set Free by Real Love to start your must-have roadmap of the heart today. I like today as well. It's very urgent. Like I said, you can use discover, unlock, explore, whatever you want to do. Now the full book description. Here it is. Headline, the hook. Synopsis, character emotional journey or how you convey the information. Selling paragraph, what it is and why people will like it. And then the call to action, buy the book because it's great. Here are a couple of examples, one for fiction, one nonfiction. Reality is under attack. Every battle could be their last and they're down to their I have a echo there too. Final life. In the battle to save his race, Scarhoof is the last guard standing. If the old shaman warrior fails to gather reinforcements, the defenseless minotaurs in his care will fall into the enemy's scaly clutches. But on the other side of the VR console, far more than Scarhoof's game world is at stake. We have a little cliffhanger there, going from paragraph 1 to paragraph 2. Adriana and her team of programmers are in for some long nights on the job. Epoch and International's latest immersive game wasn't supposed to come out for months, but a rogue AI had other plans. It's trapped players into the simulation and held their memories hostage. If Adriana can't hack her way back in, Scarhoof and the other players could be lost forever. They could die. Death. Then we have our selling paragraph. Eloria's Beginning is the dynamic first book in a new lit RPG series. If you like unconventional fantasy heroes, epic battles, and immersive gaming worlds, then you'll love Tom Hansen's VR adventure. This is what it is. This is why you'd like it. Then we have our call to action. Buy the book to boot up for a high-octane gaming session today. We often tie that to the genre for fun. Nonfiction example. Are you tired of living your life on autopilot? Discover a 7-minute fix to take back control and enjoy every moment. Do you feel like you're too busy for self-reflection? Does your well-being take a back seat to your everyday responsibilities? Has that made you stressed out and on edge? Here's the expertise. Author Justin R. Adams was exactly where you are until he fine-tuned his methods for cultivating mindfulness. And now he's here to help. He's here to help you become healthier, wealthier, and wiser. This is who the expert is. This is why you should listen to him. Mindful Life Journal contains daily prompts and playful exercises. That's how the information is conveyed to enrich your emotions, your intentions, and your energy by combining ancient Eastern wisdom with modern Western science Adams's methods can make you more self-aware and confident with just 7 minutes of effort per day. Here are the transformational benefits. You'll discover how to get a deeper understanding of the relationships between emotion and energy. You'll get energy. 13 fun challenges to help you pause and internalize the moment. How to start the day in a better mood, not just for a better mood, how to become more intentional about your life. 3 months of non-dated entry and daily prompts to help you reflect on your progress. A greater clarity of your beliefs, your values, and your sense of purpose, and much, much more. This life-affirming book in the journal is the journal you need to live a more mindful life. There's another echo there. I gotta go find these echoes in these examples. You like time-tested methods, structured approaches to self-reflection, and spending just a few minutes a day to make real progress. Then you'll love Justin R. Adams's inspirational guide, By the Mindful Life Journal, to learn to live in the moment today. So let's put it all together. Compelling hook. It gets browsers to buy or keep on reading. Your powerful description, your synopsis, leaves readers wanting more. They solidify their decision with the selling paragraph. And the call to action tells them exactly what to do. And this is what you do. This is what you have to do to turn more browsers into buyers with all of your future marketing efforts. Now, blurbs are tough. I've worked with thousands of authors. Some of them have said that writing the description is harder than writing the book itself. I see a meme with Gollum that goes around, just kind of like in his voice, we hates the blurb, but we must writes it kind of thing. But that's not great, because if copy helps you close the sale, then hey, you've got to get it right. It's very essential. Now you can do it yourself. You can hand it off to the pros. I'm going to get into a Q&A in just a second. I just wanted to let you know I work, my company, Best Page Forward, does do book descriptions. It's the easiest way to go from a blurb that pushes browsers away into one that converts more strangers into paying customers. And it's the quickest way to direct more people to the Buy Now button. Thank you, Martin. Feel free to have me back. I love you guys out there, and I really do appreciate you giving me the opportunity to share some knowledge, because it's one of my favorite things to do.
Amazing. Have a good day.